All right. My name is Armand Sadler. Some of you may know me as the host of Stay Busy with Armand Sadler. Some people know me as a journalist, playlist curator. One of my favorite things to do is to speak to other creatives who are creating for themselves. I got here with me Chris Jamel, founder of the Lifestyle NYC.
Right.
Pleasure, brother.
Of course.
Pleasure to have you here.
Of course.
So let's jump right into it, man. How did you get started in journalism?
So weird story. When I was in college, I used to do like a lot of like self-help reading and all of that. So I read a lot of books like, Rich Dad Poor Dad and things like that. And I had like a blog spot where I would take excerpts out of those books and put them on the blog spot, and I would promote them on like my social media. And it was not really getting a lot of traction, but it was just for motivational purposes.
Right.
And I was promoting that on my Facebook, and one of the girls that I was going to college with, her name was Blair. She had her website called the Blair List, which was like a news site, like about new music, new fashion, things like that. And she asked me, she was like, "Hey, you ever thought about getting into like journalism, like in this type of journalism?" I was like, "No, I never thought about it. I mean, I love it. I follow all the popular publications, but never thought about getting into it personally." And she was like, "You should give it a shot. Like, I like your writing. I like how you use it to motivate people, but this is kind of similar to that, but far away from it. In the same sense." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll give it a shot." So we got into it, and that was kind of like the beginning of everything. Like, whenever I tell people, when I get that question, I always like praise her a lot, because if I never did that, I don't know if I would be doing all of this.
Yeah.
That was like literally the first type of anything freelance wise that I've done in the writing space.
Yeah, no, we're all inspired by someone, and it's beautiful, to fall in love with a craft and have someone to credit for that. I myself, I started writing because my friend Regina Cho, you probably know her.
Yeah, of course.
I saw her putting up reviews in 2015. She reviewed like Drake, What Time to Be Alive, and I was just like, wow, this is really dope, and like people reacting to that, and then I ended up getting an internship, and now I'm here. It's not about me, but yeah, I share that experience of someone being the reason that you kind of take it to the next level.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So how's journalism changed you or changed your life?
It changed me in a lot of ways. I would say first, just understanding that there are opportunities out there that don't necessarily, I don't want to say college plays a role in it, because I went to the FIT, Fashion Institute. Me doing journalism is completely left from that.
Right. Yeah.
But it taught me a lot about like building the right connections, meeting the right people. I know that sounds a little cliche, but I think in that space, as far as like journalism and you being a freelancer and you going out, it teaches you a lot about how you need to talk to people, how you need to treat people, how you should kind of look into yourself in a way where I'm a very closed off person. I don't really like, I'm a very antisocial person. But being in a space where I freelance, I wanted to learn more about myself when it came to other people, if that makes sense. Like I wanted to see myself how people view me.
Absolutely.
So I was like, you know what? I don't want to be this antisocial person anymore. I don't want to be this person where I just I'm closed off.
Right.
It built up a lot of character for me as well. It taught me a lot about how I should treat other people, because like you're writing about other people. You're talking about, not in a bad way, but a lot of people take what they do very sensitive, like their craft. So like I never wanted to be the writer who wrote negative TMZ shit about people.
Right.
Like I've always wanted to be able to kind of express my way in a positive light if I'm talking about somebody else. So I think earning a lot of people's respect was another part that I kind of honed in on, because I wanted to shed light on that. Like I'm not a bad journalist. I want to shed light on new creatives and new music and new fashion, but I want to do it in a tasteful way.
Right.
So the maturity aspect started to kick in as well after that. So I started writing 2014, so I was probably, 23, something like that, 22, 23. So I was an adult, essentially, but I still had a lot to learn about myself, and I think that all of those things that I just mentioned going into that freelance space taught me a lot about that.
Right. Now you're here with the Lifestyle NYC. What led you to starting that, and why'd you pick that name?
So after I stopped doing the blogspot thing with the self-help books, I kind of wanted to, I was starting to get into a phase in my life when I was doing I started to travel more. I was going to concerts and festivals and more. Like 2015 was the first festival I went to. Me and my girl went to Made in America, and that was literally the first festival I've been to. So I was in a space where I was doing a lot of different things, experiencing a lot of different things, and I wanted to have a way to showcase that, not just through social media.
Right.
So I created the Lifestyle NYC, which was pretty much a personal blog of me talking about my experiences. Unfortunately, that didn't go well. I found that people really didn't care about what your personal experiences were, especially in like a article form.
Right.
They
a lot of people aren't reading.
Exactly.
Which sucks.
It does. It
feels terrible as a writer that people don't read much
at all, and I kind of started to feel that of like, people don't want to read 5, 6, 7 paragraphs about your personal experiences. You better off just throwing it up on the gram and putting up a little caption. So when I realized that wasn't really going well, I was like, all right, well, I need to kind of figure out another lane for myself and how I can go about like rebranding this. So I started it in 2016. I did it, that personal blog, I did it from 2016 up to 2017. 2017, I completely went on a hiatus. I didn't even touch the website. I didn't touch the brand. Completely forgot about it. Honestly.
Was that just personal? You just needed a break? Or?
It was both. It was personal and just break, because I was still freelancing at the time. In 2016, I had graduated college, so now I'm like really trying to figure out what the hell I need to do.
Right.
But I was working at a really good company, and it kind of sparked my interest into getting back into it. But I'm like, I don't want to write about my own personal experiences anymore. So 2017, I just didn't do anything, and I was also transitioning out of that job to find something else. And that's when like a lot of my freelance work started to pick up a lot. So I started doing a lot with like XXL and Mass Appeal and all of that. But then I also, towards the end of it, 2017, I'm like, I'm tired of writing for other people. Like, I'm tired of sending 10 pitches and you telling me none of them don't work. You know what I'm talking about. So I'm just like, I'm tired. I'm tired of you, like, me pitching the right ideas, you taking them, but then now I have to wait for you to tell me when they can be published. It's like we're sitting on tons of content and there's a time, like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what, whatever. Stopped doing it. 2018, fast forward to that, me and my girl were at brunch, and this was like right maybe the beginning of March 2018. And I was telling her, I'm like, I kind of want to revamp the brand. I just don't know how I want to go about it. Like, and she came up with the bright idea. This was all her idea. She was like, well, it's March. She said it's Women's History Month. She said, why don't you do some interviews with like women creatives that you know personally and see if they'd be interested. Now, at this time, I've done interviews with Revolt. I've done interviews with Mass Appeal. Mass Appeal had a segment that I was working on, doing interviews with like people that are cool. And she was like, yeah, just take all of those, contacts that you've built up all of these years and use that to your advantage. And March 2018, I did like a 10 interview series of like women that I really, fuck with in the industry. And that was kind of like the start of the Lifestyle NYC as you see it today.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. What would you say is the most interesting interview you've had, like where the most unique information was uncovered from someone, like some unexpected shit?
Oh, man. So what are we at, right? 55, 56 in right now? I want to say Jan. Do you know
Jan Sneed?
Jan Sneed.
Yeah,
so
I interviewed her last year. She's great.
Jan is amazing. I've been cool with Jan for a minute since she was like moving with Dinnerland and doing that whole thing. But she was very insightful with the information that she gave. Like, you want to talk about somebody who dropped a numerous amount of gems,
man.
It was her, because she, like, I feel like Jan has a lot of information on a lot of stuff.
So much.
And a lot of it she puts on Twitter.
Yeah.
Like, you follow, I'm
gems.
sure, you follow her. She puts a lot of gems on Twitter.
Every day.
But I think coming from the conversational aspect of like me asking you something and you have so much information that you just want to give it all, that was a very interesting piece. And I actually had a conversation with her probably like, I don't know, 3 months ago. And she still like cherishes that interview. Like, this was probably the best interview that I've done because it just allowed me to like tell the world or be myself. And I say that to a lot of the interviewees is like, I don't want you to be brief with your responses.
No.
Like, I have a ton of, and no disrespect, but I have a ton of interviews in my inbox where people just give me one word responses, and I'm like, I'm not even gonna waste my time.
Yeah.
But I encourage it. If I'm asking you a question, I want you to be descriptive. I want you to say whatever it is you need to say.
Yeah.
Of course, not in a malicious way, or don't bash anyone. But if I'm asking you a question about how did this compare to this, or why did you get started in this, make it as descriptive as possible for the next person that's reading it that wants to be in the same field as you, that can now take that information and process it and utilize that for themselves. Mm-hmm. And Jan did a very, very she was very great at doing that.
Right.
There's a couple of other interviews as well. I did an interview with a guy named Sheck a couple weeks ago. He's a fashion designer. I've known him for a little while now, just on like the music scene. Mm-hmm. But he has a fashion brand, and he had a really good story to tell because he was born and raised in Maryland, but he spent a lot of like his teenhood in London. Mm-hmm. So him being a fashion guy, he kind of got the best of both, like being in the States, and then, we already know like London and just Europe itself is just really big on fashion. So him having a fashion brand, he had a really good story to tell. So just things like that I really enjoy. Like I'm going to take my time to do my due diligence and actually research you and come up with the best questions possible. So I kind of want you to reciprocate that.
Yeah.
Like I think it's just fair. But yeah, man, I don't know. Go to Lifestyle NYC. You can check out all the interviews. But yeah, I think those were really two good ones that I kind of just cherish, and I really appreciate the feedback that I got from it.
Yeah. Are you the only writer at Lifestyle NYC right now?
No. So I have a managing editor.
Okay.
Her name is Deanne. She's actually from Jersey as well.
Jersey.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
She's from Jersey. I met her when I was in community college. We were both studying fashion together, and we are actually about to get another writer on board as well. So she was originally, or still is, the social media manager for the site. Her name is Eve. But she wanted to get into contributing some interviews as well. So her first interview is actually dropping next week for the site. Okay. So she's going to be running the social media. She's also going to be contributing from time to time.
What's the experience been like with a small team running your own publication essentially? Like they're all the major publications have hundreds of people, and mm-hmm. we're seeing staff writer positions are lessening as budgets are changing, like the economy is changing, and just the ecosystem, the journalism ecosystem is changing. Mm-hmm. But what's your experience been running it and then having that small tight team?
Mm-hmm. It's been cool. I mean, I think the experience has been a little bit different because like this is the first time where I've felt like I don't like to use the term in charge, but where I can be a leader amongst great creatives that have great ideas.
Right.
Like it's impossible to do this by myself. Like the reason why I brought Eve on as social media manager, because there's things that I can't do mm-hmm. or know how to do or even want to take the time to learn, based on social media and how to like not put postings up, but how to kind of just make it engaging. Like I know how to post a picture, I know how to create a dope caption. That's pretty much it. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to bring somebody on that actually had the know-how to not only make it engaging, but create different pictures, different type of aspects to it, and just bring that freshness to it. And it was just something that I couldn't do, obviously. So I brought her on board. And I think having a team of people who can contribute not just to the site itself as far as writing, but ideas. Like we have a group chat that we're constantly in every day about, and we're not only do just talk regular day to day friend wise, but just throwing out ideas about what we can do to kind of take this to the next level. Like right. You want to say something, all right, cool, put it in the chat, or we have a Google Doc as well that we kind of just spitball ideas on. Put that on there, and when we link up and have our little powwow, whatever, we can talk on all of this and see how we can mastermind next steps to moving forward with that. If it doesn't work, that doesn't mean that it's never going to work. It's just maybe now is not the time for it. So just having a team of people that are aligned with what the vision is mm-hmm. is important, because if they're not, then it kind of just defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
Like I kind of sit back and I watch how a lot of like the other brands operate. Like we were just talking about Duce Palooza a little mm-hmm. while ago, and kind of seeing how that started from the beginning till now, where like you have all of these people that are involved in it, but they all have the same vision. They all have the same type of mentality as to where they want the brand to grow. And that's kind of where I kind of take my influence from as far as like building a team, is that we're all going to have our own individual things that we do outside of the brand. That's perfectly fine. But when we can come to a conclusion, or we can come to a decision about what we're doing with this, we kind of have to align and be on the same page and know what the end goal is. And with Deanne and Eve, I have no doubt that that's where it is, because they're cut from two different cloths. Eve from being from Brooklyn, Deanne being from New Jersey, but they have the same type of mentality and idea and what to do when it comes to the brand.
Right.
So it's been an experience thus far.
How do you measure the success of your publication?
I think there's a lot of different ways to measure it. I mean, now we're in this social media world, right? So a lot of people are measuring their success about when it comes to retweets,
likes and retweets,
and likes. Yeah, you know, like it's very. I'm not gonna say it's strange, because I mean, if your brand has a social media and you're posting, you know, the work from that, then yeah, you want people to retweet it. You want people to like it. You post it up on the gram, you want people to like it. Like, that's just the nature of the business. So I would say I measure it based on that. I also check the stats as well. Like, I have the Squarespace statistics on my phone, so I check that as well. So sometimes, you know, I'll have a post that'll probably get, I don't know, like 10 retweets. But then when I check the analytics, we'll have maybe like 250 views on that post just within like, you know, an hour or two.
Yeah.
But then there's been moments where I post something and it gets like 40 retweets, but then it has, you know, 50 views. So it's like I want to base it off that. I want to base it off the unique visitors who are coming to the site all the time. Like, I want to base it off that. I want to base it off the views. I go through all the interviews that I've posted and I see who, like, not who obviously, but the numbers of the views of that interview. Like, that's how I judge it. Now, granted, yes, social media plays a part. I'm not saying it doesn't. And I think just the engagement part, like, you know, making sure you're engaged with your audience is also a way to really gauge how successful the brand is, because engagement is important when you have social media, which is why I have a social media manager, because she's very good at that. So the more you engage with your audience, the more you kind of show them that they're not just a comment in the comment section, the more successful the brand can go, or the brand can be, and obviously the further you'll be able to go with it. So there's a lot of layers to that. There's a lot of layers to checking that, but I think those are like the kind of the foundation of it.
Okay. I feel like a lot of creatives, I know myself personally, we can get in our heads sometimes. You know, we can get caught up in the support we're getting from other people, and we can allow that to make us feel as though maybe we're not good enough, or we're not doing enough. So have you had those moments? And if you have, what have you done to kind of fight your way out of being in that negative headspace?
I think probably about one or two of like self-doubt when it came to the brand. It's like, because you look at it, there's dozens and dozens of publications out there. There's dozens of different platforms out there, whether established or, you know, still trying to make their way. And you kind of look at it as like, well, I'm just another person out here just doing something that a million other people are doing. And I think that just comes with just building the brand itself. Like, if you're building a clothing line, you can't say, well, there's a million other clothing lines out here. How do you differentiate yourself from that? That's how as I started to do this and got further and further along in doing it, I started to realize that, yeah, I am a brand amongst, you know, millions of brands doing this, but I think I differentiate myself in a very interesting way, because it's not just a site where we're doing daily news things. It's not just a site where we're posting new music or, you know, who had a fight at the Grammys. Like, we're not doing that, you know, like, we're actually tapping into these markets, especially, of course, NYC, and talking to a lot of creative people who, one, maybe never had the opportunity to get that type of platform to tell their story. Or two, maybe they had, but it just wasn't told the way they wanted it to be told. Or maybe they just didn't. I feel like a lot of people withhold information because they feel like this person is just doing this for the sake of whatever their site is. Right. Like, a lot of people that I've interviewed, I had, or still have, genuine relationships with. So opening up that comfortability box where they wanted to tell me all of that was cool. You know what I'm saying? So, but to go back to the question, I try not to even think about it, because
it's hard.
It's hard. I mean, it's hard. Like, but I try not to think about it, because I think as long as you're putting in the work, and as long as you know what the end goal is, you know what the vision is, you know where you're trying to take your brand, don't ever put yourself up against what is going on around you. And again, as you said, it's hard because one, as humans, we just naturally deal with self-doubt. But two, this social media, like, social media is excuse my language, it was a fucking headache. Like, when you're building a brand, but you see 6, 7 other people who are pretty much kind of doing what you're doing, but they're getting all the recognition. They're doing this.
Yep.
It kind of puts you in a space where it's like, well, why I'm not getting those looks?
Mm-hmm.
You can't even think about that. I look at it as motivation.
Yeah.
Because it's like, this person's doing what I'm doing. They got that look. Okay, I know if I just work a little bit harder, if I put in a little bit extra time, if I tell, you know, Deanne and Eve that this is what we need to do, and we can get this shit done if it's done this way. That's all. Like, I try not to pay attention to the outside factors because I don't want it to influence me in a negative way. I look at it like, that's dope. I want to do that one day, and I'm not gonna hate on this person. I'm not gonna shade this person because I know this person has done amazing things to get to that position.
Yeah. So
you know what? I'm gonna try my hardest to build up my shit and do the same exact thing. Well, again, bro, with social media is hard, and just with being us being humans, it's difficult to not go through that self-doubt period.
Yeah.
But it's kind of easy to break out of it when you know what it is you want for yourself, and if you have a team around you, their responsibility is to let you know that we can do this shit. Not just to input on the brand, but again, just visions aligning. If they have a vision that you have for this brand, then they should know that, all right, we can differentiate ourselves and take this shit to the next level. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I guess to summarize it, I don't really experience it anymore. Used to, but not anymore.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. So what is the next level for the lifestyle for you? Like, what is the next thing you want to accomplish with that?
So the next thing I want to be able to accomplish is being able to add segments to the Lifestyle NYC. So right now we have just a standard site where we do interviews with creatives and whatnot, but you know, after kind of just studying how the other huge publications have done it, like you think about like Complex, where we know what Complex is when you hear the name, but then you think about what Complex houses as far as content, like they have Everyday Struggle and sneaker shopping and all of those things. That's kind of how I envision Lifestyle NYC to be, where it's like, okay, we have this umbrella where we have content like interviews and things like that, but how do we break off to start doing like the Lifestyle NYC Presents segments? Like, I've always envisioned that. Like, I obviously love doing interviews with people, but I think there's different things that we can tap into to show that we're not just interviews. We are interviews, but we're, you know, documentaries. You know, we're silly with some of our content. We can do a lot of different things with it and spin it a certain way. So I think that is something I want to focus on, like, for this year, or at least like the first 2 quarters of this year, and kind of go through that trial and error period to see like what works and what doesn't. I'm very open to trial and error because I know not everything is going to work, but you never know until you give it a shot. So I think that's where it's at right now, where I want to get into that, or we're obviously talking about getting into that, and then whatever happens. And then I also want to get into doing like more involved in like the party space, which is something that I've been talking to a lot of people about as well. So I got a couple good things in the works with that. Not necessarily, well, I want to do our own parties and our own events, but right now I'm just getting into the space of kind of being the guy in the background and kind of seeing how things are done, but still with the brand involved. But that's something that we eventually want to evolve. And yeah, man, I think that's pretty much it for right now. There's a lot of things that I put on my goal list for the brand for this year, and a lot of what I just mentioned are a lot of things that we want to accomplish within like the first 2 quarters. And the last 2 quarters, there are going to be a lot of other things involved as far as like traveling and, you know, doing a lot of things in different markets, like physically, that I'm pretty excited about.
Awesome. So, what's one word you would use to describe last decade for you?
Resilient.
I like that.
Resilient. Last year was I think last year was pretty defining for like me, or just the brand as a whole, because the beginning of 2018, I was trying to figure out how I wanted to go about expanding the Lifestyle NYC. And we were talking about getting a new site done and, you know, adding more people to the team and whatnot. And we had all of these plans, and then as we were moving through the course of the year, or I guess you could say the course of like the first quarter, you know, a lot of those things were coming to fruition. But then I got into a space where I kind of wanted to take a break from social media. Like I go through these moments where like, and again, I think it's just us being human. We go through these moments where we want to be, you know, friendly and outgoing, but then we go through these moments where it's like, I don't even want to be bothered. You know, like I think just as humans, that's just what happens. Like so.
It's tough being social.
It is. It's very tough being social,
it's
man.
Tough.
Like especially when that's just naturally not who you are as a person.
Right.
And I've kind of honed in on that a little bit. But last year it was kind of in a space where we were talking about all these great things and wanted all these great things to happen, and then what happened? And then Nip died, and I was a Nipsey fan. Like you could ask my girl. Like I was a Nipsey fan. Like I started becoming a huge Nipsey fan. Like as he started to get bigger and bigger in his career,
right.
which made me then of course listen to him in that current moment. But like any other fan who gets put onto an artist, you start going back to the catalog and listen to all their old shit.
Yep.
And when Nip passed, I took like 4 months off social media.
Damn.
Like and that hindered obviously my personal brand and Lifestyle NYC. I took like 4 months off, and then me and my girl we went on a trip with the family to Jamaica, and then as we were out there talking about the summer's pretty much about to be over when we get back from the trip. Like, what are you gonna do now with this last quarter of the year? Like, how do you plan on making that comeback? Because, you know, with social media, they're very like harsh sometimes. You know, especially if you take that much time off. And I'm just gonna come back. Like, I mean, I've never done anything malicious to anybody for them not to like me or not like the brand, but I understand what you're saying. But I always had that vision in mind. Like I've never been the person to start something and not finish it.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm not gonna build this market up just for me not to complete the mission. Like no, I didn't want to do that. So as we got into September, I'm like, well, now it's time to get a new site done. I've been talking about it. Nothing has ever come out of that talk, but I think me just showing that resilience and showing that you can't give up that easy. Like, yeah, sometimes you got to take a step back and you got to kind of analyze things and you got to kind of analyze your life and see if this is the right path that you're on and if you want to continue it. I did that and I'm just like, you know, I can't just not keep going. So we got the site made, and once we got the site made, we released it the beginning of this year. And yeah, man, I think just showing that, and of course having conversations with people like my close friends and my girl because she knows me best. Like, she's like, this is not the type of person you are. Like, you don't want to just. Granted, I understand you've taken some time off social media, but you can always come back and build that back up.
Yeah. The
same way you had it before you left. And that's pretty much what I did. And I want to definitely thank her and obviously my team because they were behind it 100%. They were frustrated because we had so much content we were sitting on. It's like, yo, Chris, what's going on? Like, this is like Revolt. Like, you're, you know, honing all this great content and we just don't have anywhere to drop it right now.
Right.
I'm just like, it's cool. Like, we'll put this in the vault, and when it's time to release it, which is still going to be fresh because we didn't put the word out about anything, and neither did the people that we spoke with.
Yeah.
We did that, and we got the same type of reception from it. So I was cool with that. I was thoroughly cool with that. Like, I have no regrets about that.
Word. What's the biggest thing about yourself as a writer, as a journalist that you want to improve this year?
Personal speaking.
Okay.
Or not personal speaking, public speaking. Excuse me. Public speaking. Because me not being highly social. It's sometimes uncomfortable for me to be in like those spaces where like I have a mic and there's 400 people watching you. But I want to get into those spaces because I see like a lot of my peers do it. People that I look up to and also people that kind of brought me into the industry. Like, I look at Elliot Wilson when he does it. Him and, you know, when he does, you know, when he does Crown. I've attended a couple of his Crown interviews. And then I look at people that also helped me get into the industry, like Gia Peppers. Like, she was, I guess you can say, sort of a mentor figure when I started writing for Ebro's site when he had it. And she does a lot of panels and things like that. So that's something that I want to do. I feel like I can speak well. But I feel like, just like anybody, you'll get flustered in that space. Somebody gives you a mic to interview somebody, and there's 600-700 people in the crowd. You know, like, that's just a very flustering moment. But I want to get better at that, because that is one layer of the lifestyle NYC and where I see it going. We want to do more visual events, and when I said that, I mean something like that, where we can hold a panel of some sort, or just like a one-on-one interview with somebody, and we have a sold-out venue. You know, like, so. Obviously, I wouldn't be the only one doing it. Of course, we'll get, you know, everybody else involved as well. But that's something that I want to, you know, give a shot at and get better with, you know, as I go along.
Okay. Now, in terms of music, gotta talk music.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gotta talk music. New York is at a really good place. You know, I felt for a while that people were looking to have like that one star, but looking at the scene now, you got the A Boogie Lane, you got the Cardi B, and then you got Pop Smoke, and all those drill people, 5EO, Fergie Baby, all them. So New York is actually at a much better place than I think people realize. Yeah, I had an interesting discussion with my girl about that as well. But yeah, we'll get into that. So we had a conversation. I don't even remember how long ago it was, but it was fairly recent, like 3 months ago, something like that. And I don't even know how we got into the talk, honestly. But she was like, New York hasn't really had, in a while, like, staples that, like, New York used to have. Like, New York had a sound in. Like, you had, you know, Ja Rules in the 50s and, you know, like, you know, Dipset and all that. Like, we had that sound. But I guess, you know, with her, she's not from here. My girl's from Baltimore. So, but she's a huge hip-hop head, like I am. Yeah. But she's like, yeah, you guys haven't had that sound. Like everybody's waiting for it, but nothing's happening. And then I had to bring up the fact where I'm like, well, just, I don't know, last year or 2 years ago, Fat Joe and Remy got nominated for a Grammy. Like, there's people in New York that are really making noise, but you have to choose to listen to it. Yeah. Which is, again, some things aren't for everybody, but I mean, you couldn't walk anywhere without hearing All the Way Up. You know what I'm saying? So, but I guess, you know, I kind of understood her point. But I was also, at that point, talking about, you know, like, Griselda. You know, I was telling her about, you know, Benny the Butcher, who's arguably in my top 5 active rappers right now. Just talking about that. Like, New York is definitely making a comeback with that grimy rap, but also with like Pop Smoke and 5EO obviously putting that little bit of that drill on it. You know what I'm saying? And that's cool because it still sounds New York. Yeah, you know, like, you listen to Pop Smoke, he has that hints of drill in it. The same thing with 5EO, they have that drill in it, but you can hear the New York. Yeah. And obviously when you listen to Griselda, that's New York all the way. So yeah, I mean, I think people have different ears for different things. Like if you're a diehard New York person, then you know who the up and coming New Yorkers are that are like now carrying that torch. But you know, sometimes again, people just choose to listen to different things. Yeah. And that doesn't make them, you know, I don't want to say naive, but if it's there and we're telling you this is what it is and you can listen to it because it's accessible right on your phone, then give it a listen. But yeah, New York has definitely been making a nice wave for, I want to say, at least about a year now. Yeah. Like they've been really, really going strong right now with the new artists. So one of my biggest challenges has been balancing being a fan and then being a journalist. Because as journalists, we try to be objective. We try to be critical of the people we like. I'm a Drake guy. Drake is my favorite artist of all time. Same. I would write about Drake every day if I could. But, you know, I feel like you get better by writing about artists that maybe you don't like, artists that you didn't listen to. So how do you strike that balance between being a fan and being a journalist? Oh, man. I don't want to say it's tough, but it is tough. It is. Like it's easy to write about somebody you've been following that you're a fan of. Yeah. Like it's easy for you and I to write about Drake or to write about Jay-Z or, you know, the guys that we kind of been idolizing. You know, like it's easy because we know everything about them. But at some point you do have to be a little bit more open to, how can I put it? You have to be open to the fact that everything that they do on a music level, at least, isn't great sometimes.
like, there are things that Drake has put out that I was like,
Yeah.
and I'll write about it. You know, at the time when I was freelancing, like, yeah, I'll write about it, cool. But I think just with being a creative, you kind of have to be open to that type of feedback. You know, whether it's journalism, whether it's music, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
I've been put in positions where I wrote articles about people I knew nothing about. But you know, again, as a freelancer, you're pretty much told what to do, and they put that on you, and it's like, all right, well, now I have to go research this person or whatever the case is. But being a fan is tough because, again, these are people that we look to when we're going through things. When we want to listen to music. Like, Drake has a song for every mood that you could think about. You know what I'm saying? So, like, and I think even other people that we look into, like like the J. Coles and the Kendricks, or like the people that are on that Mount Rushmore of, they all have songs that we can go back to whenever we're feeling some type of mood. But I think to separate that, it has to be, all right, I can't be a fan anymore. Like, if there's something that is critical, I have to kind of look at it from both perspectives and kind of hone in on that and see how I can go about not spinning it, but putting it correctly into an article. But again, I think that's difficult for a lot of writers because a lot of people are really big fans of people, and they don't want to feel like they've gotten to a position where if this person does something bad, that they have to find a way to cover it up.
Right.
I think it's a great thing to talk about a misstep that one of your favorite artists had.
Absolutely.
We're all human. Like, we all go through that. Like, it's cool. Like, you think about that Pusha and Drake situation. You know how many journalists probably step back, like, nah, I don't want to do this.
I can't. Yeah.
Because
like
Drake is
too much.
or I like Push too much. Like,
a
lot of I'm sure a lot of journalists probably stepped away from that because they don't want to cross any boundaries. But it's like, bro, this is what you signed up for. Like, we didn't sign up obviously to bash people and talk negative about people, but you signed up to critique and talk about what's happening. Like, you work for a daily news site, so this is what you're supposed to do. And you can do it respectfully. You can do it tastefully. It doesn't have to come off disrespectful. But at the same time, we have to kind of be able to draw that line between, yes, I'm a fan, but I'm also a critique to the culture and what's happening.
How do you feel about the artists who get upset at journalists when they possibly give them a bad review and they say, oh, journalists are stupid, or oh, they're corny nerds who couldn't make the music themselves, or oh, if you can't make music then you shouldn't write about it, like all that. Like, it's been happening a lot lately.
Yeah.
Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a fine line as well because, like, I want to say unfortunately, for artists like, obviously the artists we just mentioned, they don't need press, like
Drake don't care about.
Yeah, obviously, like, none of them really do. Like, none of them are trying to drive whatever they're doing to the press for some type of notoriety. But I also understand that, again, with being in this space of media, everybody is so fast to want to be the first person to do something.
Yes. And
they don't even have all the resources to do it. Yep. Like, I can understand the frustration. Like, before you go in and write on something, at least check the references, check the sources, see what this person is saying, that person is saying. Like, give yourself some time instead of being first with it, and then you're all the way incorrect about what you're putting out. I think I'm not an artist, but from like an artist standpoint, I would love to be able to have media write about me or whatever I'm doing, but I can understand as to why they can be a little bit frustrated sometimes because, again, I feel a lot of times journalists don't have the person that they're writing about's best interest at heart. They just want to get the content out. And that can be frustrating as well because as a journalist, you don't know what type of relationships you're kind of fucking over. You're kind of destroying, what type of bridges you might be destroying. Like, you don't really know. Like, I've made a lot of good friends off of writing, like my freelance, and I was writing about a lot of popular people, and I was writing about a lot of upcoming artists, and I was able to build a lot of those relationships just off the strength of that. But as a journalist, sometimes you don't even know what type of relationship you're building or not building by simply what you're putting on a paper.
Right.
Like, so I think a lot of journalists need to take heed to that because your words, what you're putting on these popular publications, the billboards, the revolts, all of this, people see that. people see that. PR people, they use that in press kits and like, well, not necessarily the negative stuff, obviously, but this is how people normally get their next break and their next feature and all this other stuff. So use your words wisely. And first and foremost, just know what the hell you're doing and check the sources first before you get into let me be first with it. You know, like so I kind of understand both sides. I understand the journalist side because I was in it, and I understand the artist side because again they're the ones who have to deal with that backlash. Like you remember that whole situation with Nicki Minaj and homegirl who was writing for Karen Civil. Yep. You know what I'm saying? So kind of, and it's not her fault, but just kind of watch how you go about things, and you know, like it'll kind of just make things smoother. I don't know. I can't. I've never been in that position, but I've been in a journalist position. I've been the one who had to write something about somebody, not in a negative way, but then saw how people reacted to it when it was written in a positive way. You know, so I can only imagine how it goes when it's negative. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And a lot of things, one thing I feel people don't consider about artists is like, yeah, they're rich, they got money, women, jewelry, but like they're human too. Yeah. They have feelings too. If you spend a year making a project and someone bashes it after like an hour after it comes out and puts it out to the millions of followers, like you know, there's just got to be more responsibility there. I feel, and I think people are entitled to their opinion. So if you don't like something, it's fair to express that. But
that's the great thing about being a journalist too, is that it's expressive. Like you don't have to feed into what what's popular right now. You don't have to feed into the hype. You can completely go against the grain and say that you don't like something. I think that's kind of where social media has lost a lot of that, I guess, in a sense, because you can be a part of the parade of people who love something, but the moment you go against that grain, they kind of like try to, you know, disown you. It's like, bro, it's okay to not like something.
It's absolutely okay.
Like it's okay to not like something. Yeah, it's like, especially like I look at it like in a way of like, if I'm a fan of this person, like take Drake for example, I'm a huge fan of Drake, huge fan of Drake. So me being a huge fan of him, I'm perfectly okay with saying that this is not cool. This is not dope. It's fine. Drake doesn't know me from a hole in the wall. That's fine. But I'm gonna be the guy that's like, nah, that was it's okay. I'm not. But the whole parade of people are like, well, you don't know what you're talking about. You just like, what are you talking about? Yeah, but I think just being in that space now where it's okay to say something's not dope. It's okay to say something's not fire. You shouldn't be, you know, you shouldn't have a million people tweeting you telling you don't know what you're talking about. Like, it's okay to just say something's whack. Yeah, it's fine. I don't think a lot of people understand that concept though. Like now with social media being in the way it is,
oh man, it's just a lot of groupthink.
Exactly,
a lot of groupthink.
Exactly,
yeah.
Like
and trolling.
Yes, it is.
People take trolling opinions as serious opinions, and yeah, I can go on about this forever.
Yeah, me too. It's a whole nother conversation. Is on its own.
Yeah. And that's actually why I started Stay Busy, because I wanted people to speak about music more responsibly, and not just think about what they like and dislike, but think about the business side of music. Like, you might not like that single, but that single, like, you know, in terms of bringing attention to the album and creating a crazy rollout and, you know, streams and all that, like, that might be the reason they put it out. And then also artist humanity, artist mortality, you know, stuff like that. There's so many aspects to music outside of, I like this beat is dope. Like, and, you know, I really want people to think about that. So that's why I love speaking with journalists and creatives who kind of think along that same line. Who's the GOAT in hip hop for you?
Are we talking just like rap, or are we talking about just overall?
Let's go rap. Let's go both. We're rapping then overall.
Well, rap. Well, Hove.
Hove, okay.
Like, Hove for both, honestly. Okay. Like, I throw Drake in there as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is there a world where you can make the? Because I agree, Hove. I feel if Big was able to live longer and put more music out, I think he would be up there. And I think you just can't deny what Drake has accomplished.
Absolutely.
But a lot of people try.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, like, what it would take for him to, like, get to that point where people can just, like, not have to put an asterisk, you know, because of the ghostwriting stuff, or because he hasn't done an album with no features or something. You know, like there's all these arbitrary reasons that people try to tear him down. But okay, hope for both.
I mean,
I respect that.
Here's my thing, man. Like I don't discredit anything that man has put in the last decade. You know, a little over a decade, but. Nonetheless, like you can say he had ghostwriters or whatever the case may be, but you can't deny the fact that Drake is again one of the most influential artists of our time. Like,
one of the most accomplished artists.
Yeah, like I mean, I when that whole situation happened, I personally didn't care about that
at all.
I kind of just disregarded.
You know how many other he said in his rap radar interview. You know how many other people have people writing for them, and they're just hiding. That they're not saying anything about it. Like
absolutely, and it's again. I've been in spaces where you know, like a lot of my homies write music, so I've been in spaces where they're collaborating with somebody else, but that person that they're collaborating with may not necessarily be on that song.
Music is
just
collaborative.
It's just idea bouncing.
Yeah.
And that's cool. But I guess the bigger picture, I never paid attention to it. I kind of just disregarded it, like whatever. Mm-hmm. The reason why I say both is because I think Hove has accomplished a lot of what Drake is doing right now. Is a lot of the blueprint that
modeled
Hove said. Yep. You know, no pun intended. Like I think that he's just following that same model. Same thing with Cole as well. Like you can put Cole up there as well. Not only is Cole a talented fucking musician, but he's followed a lot of that model of like, you know, I'm going to do this, I'm going to get my name, I'm going to build this, and then we're just going to create the umbrella of now we got Dreamville. You know, now we got fucking Dreamville Fest. Like, it has a bunch of these artists that are really fucking talented as well. Mm-hmm. And they're all doing amazing things. So it's like just following that blueprint that he set. So now, I think, when you think about, I like, we have conversations, like me and my homies, about like that three-headed, you know, monster of the music industry right now, which is
Cole.
Yeah, and I think they're all following that model because TDE has the same kind of model. You know, like they followed that blueprint of like, this is what it is. We're gonna do this ourselves. We're gonna build it up to where we got a market, and then we're also gonna start recruiting really talented artists and kind of building that off on our own. And they have that same type of model, business model, music model. I don't think you could discredit any of them for what they've done. But we talk about like influence. Drake has that. Hove obviously has that on the music and business side. And as we just discussed, they all follow that business type model. But from the music standpoint, I mean, there's nothing Drake can't do. Like,
it's crazy. From
what I've seen as well, there's nothing really Cole can't do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like, I think with how they've influenced the culture is a lot of people are going to take that and kind of spin it in a way where, you know, now they're going to say Drake is a culture vulture and he does this for his own benefit, you know, like, and it's just kind of just bullshit.
It is.
Like, it's like he gives everybody a chance at something.
Yeah.
Like, he taps into it and he, like, maybe like 2 weeks ago, I heard a snippet on Twitter. He has a record with Fabio coming.
Really?
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know when it's supposed to be coming, but it was on one of his homies posted the snippet and Fabio was in it, and the record that was playing was Drake. It was like the drill Drake.
That's nuts.
But it's like, who would have thought?
That's love for Fabio too.
You know what I'm saying?
He's about to be out of here.
Yeah, that's gonna like
he got the Tory Lanez track too.
He got the Tory Lanez record as well. Like,
yeah, he's doing his thing.
I think he's so good with his ear for talent that when that moment happens, he taps into it and he helps. Like, he helps a lot of these young artists and producers like get their name in the industry, and then allows them that opportunity to like, all right, I did this with you, but now we've gotten to a point where I can let you walk through those doors because of I don't want to say the cosign, but me. That's what it is, though. Yeah, it's a cosign, but more cosign kind of has like a negative connotation to it. But somewhat. Yeah, but like we linked up, we made this work, but now I want to let you flourish now. Yeah. I'm not going to continue to. I'm going to let you do your thing. And he's done that with a lot of artists.
I love 21 Savage and Lil Baby are probably the biggest examples for me, and The Weeknd, of people who got the big Drake look and then took it and ran with it and produced themselves. Like, consistently. Like, 21 hasn't made a bad project since he collabed with Drake on Sneak. And Lil Baby, after Yes Indeed, out of here. Like, I love seeing that. And I love seeing that.
And it also just shows a sense of just sincerity there, right? Like, I think Drake, he doesn't do this for his own benefit. Like, he doesn't do this to try to be the culture vulture that people, claim him to be.
And he still does benefit from it, but I personally don't feel that's his intent.
It's not like he's not going into it saying, this is dope, I'm gonna get on this because this is gonna help me out.
For me, yeah.
Drake doesn't need that, And again, this is not to discredit any other artists we talked about,
right.
But it's like, again, getting that look from that type of artist is only gonna bring your name up here. But then again, as we mentioned, it's up to you what you do with that afterwards.
Yeah,
we've seen that happen with artists that he worked with, and they got here with a record, and then they just
fell off.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Fetty Wap.
Yeah. It just happens. But even with Hove as well. Like, Hove is not from just kind of just listening to him and studying him, is like, he's not big on just giving that person the record. Like, he's not big on giving that person the feature, but he will possibly sign you and kind of let you figure it out on your own, which is essentially what he did with Cole. You know what I mean? Like, he signed Cole, and Cole was in the background for God knows how long, until, I don't know, maybe Born Sinner came out, and then it was kind of like all from there. But yeah, it's the same thing. Like, you kind of just you see it, you learn from it, but you can't expect this person, in Hove's case at least, to kind of spoon feed you. I think in Drake's case, he does it, but he does it tastefully, where he's not using it for his own benefit. He's literally just trying to help out the next generation of music, which I think within the last year and a half, he's done really well. Because pretty much all the artists that he's collabed with within like the last year and a half, 2 years, have all solidified names for themselves. And he still continues to collab with them, or you see him around, or with these people in pictures, or whatever the case is, which is really dope to see. But not to go off on a tangent, to answer your question, I got Hove up there in both of those categories, but then right underneath, leading that generation, our generation, I got Drake.
The one new thing I want to try with my interviews, I want to ask, what is one question you would have liked to have been asked today that I didn't ask you?
One question that I wish you would have asked.
It's a tough question.
That is a tough question. I don't know, man. I think you did a pretty good job on touching on the beginning aspects of journalism, and obviously we got into Lifestyle NYC. There's not really much that you could have asked. I mean, I don't mind getting into a little bit more about the brand, but I think you kind of touched on that a little bit as well, or for the most part, a lot of it. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Really good quality conversation. I love debating and arguing about music. Obviously, like, that's my thing.
Always.
But man, I think that was pretty much it.
Awesome.
It was really, really dope.
Tell the people your social media, man.
So my social media for both Instagram and Twitter, at Chris Jamel, ChrisJamel. The brand's social media handles, both Instagram and Twitter, is at The Lifestyle NYC. Again, that's at The Lifestyle NYC.
Awesome. Thank you for your time, bro.
Of course, man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
It's a wrap. Oh, I love it. Let's get some pics. And then let's get another JMO Ginger.
Oh, man. That was dope, though, bro.
Thank you.